Ay, ay, ay. Where to begin with this team this year? The Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow, his injury. Ay, 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 ay. There is a lot to dissect. The Bengals are once again 0-2 to start the season, this time at the hands of two division rivals on the road at Cleveland, home for the Baltimore Ravens. Things looked better in a lot of respects this week, particularly in the second half, particularly in the passing game, but it was still another slow start in the game. There were still a lot of issues in the passing game early on. And then, as you try and make it a game, you just can't do enough on defense. Last week, I wrote an article. It's a 5 questions with the enemy with, the respective SB Nation blog covering the opponent that the Bengals play. This week, of course, was Baltimore beatdown, and I wrote one, and I got some feedback saying, because I wrote that the Bengals defense in that game against Cleveland really didn't play as bad, I felt, as some of the stats showed. They were just out there too long, not as many sustained drives. They held Deshaun Watson to under 150 yards passing, 2 turnovers forced. The list goes on and on. They just kind of were on the field too often, too much, bad weather, and then, things kind of derailed at the end for them. This week, a completely different story as it goes with the Cincinnati Bengals defense, I think, because, hell, man, they just did not have an answer for anything Baltimore was throwing at him. And what is that now? 7-1, Lamar Jackson versus the Bengals? That's a theme. They cannot figure that out. Even these great Bengal teams, the better Bengal teams, cannot figure out Lamar Jackson. And even when they seem to have him dead to rights on some of these, he'd sit back there a little bit, then he'd go and run. He would extend plays with his legs, get a few extra yards, and extend drives with plays. Some inexcusable plays by the defense, an inexcusable turnover by Joe Burrow. Now there's concerns about his injury. We'll talk about it all. We'll talk about the box score, tail of the tape. We will talk about concerns, the differences between the 0-2 starts, good, bad, and indifferent between the 0-2 starts. We will break that down further this week, John Sheeran and myself, as we go through things a little further on the aftermath and whatnot. But we will also take a look. There are some rumblings that things are not looking great as it goes with Joe Burrow's injury. So I don't know what else really to say on that one, except for the fact that this is not where you want to be as the Cincinnati Bengals, to say the very, very least, going forward. Yeah, can they turn things around? Yeah, but now you've got concerns about the injury. Joe, at the end of the game, was wincing in pain. I guess there was some cursing and other things. And then, of course, we're hearing from some people that we trust that, there's some information being disseminated that potentially not great news as it goes with Joe Burrow in that calf long term. At least in the, the next couple of weeks, we will see exactly what happens there. But not great news, not great vibes around the Cincinnati Bengals. And at any rate, Dan the Man, paging Jake Browning, either him or Will Greer, who looked pretty good in the preseason as well. Bengals lose 27-24. And really, to me, this game was not as close as that score kind of indicates. The Ravens punted just twice. On it, they scored or were in position to score on every other drive. I know that's kind of weird to say, or maybe that's a little bit of a duh statement. If you're not punting, maybe you are in position to score, you're scoring. Other times you're going for it on fourth downs, that sort of, so you have a turnover on downs, or you turn the ball over, that sort of thing. Every other time that the Ravens had the ball, they had an opportunity to score. And a rare Justin Tucker miss made this a little closer, and a, kind of a furious comeback towards the end there where the Bengals scored really all 24 points in a matter of 2.5 quarters, it seemed. So Bengals just didn't do enough. Were plodding along early on offense and just did not do enough overall. There were some better things this week, obviously, as opposed to last. And, the bottom line is they're 0-2. They're 0-2 in the division. And that is just not where they needed to be. I think regardless of when you are talking about this, when you were talking about this schedule in the start of it, I think obviously you go, well, you feel like you can win both of those games 2-0. You feel like, you should, and it would be okay to be 1-1, but not the case this week. And the Bengals just take another loss. This one, a pretty tough one, and it started off offensively, much like the last week's game. Thankfully, they turned things around, as I said, and made a little game of it at the end there. But you just kind of felt, it was one of those things that reminded me, unfortunately, of the early Marvin Lewis years where, and this is the box score, by the way, courtesy of ESPN here, so you can check this out. But it reminded me a bit of the early Marvin Lewis Bengals teams that he had, where he didn't have the defense, they didn't have the run defense, and at the end, even though the Bengals made a good comeback and they were trying to hang on and using the timeouts and all of that, you just felt that they just couldn't tackle. They didn't have the energy, they didn't have answers on defense for the day. And just a stellar game plan by Baltimore overall. You look at it, Lamar Jackson, 24 of 33 and 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, no sacks by the Bengals netted on Lamar Jackson this week, a 112.8 rating. And you look at it by committee on the ground, 37 carries, 178 yards, 4.8 yards per carry, 1 touchdown on the ground. Gus Edwards leading the way there, 10 carries, 62 yards. Comparatively, Burrow, 27 of 41, 41 attempts, was throwing the ball a lot, and that's not necessarily what you needed or what you were hoping for in either game coming off of the calf injury. 27 of 41, just 222 yards, less than 300 net yards passing in 2 games for Joe Burrow. 5.4 yards average, 2 touchdowns. It did have the 2 nice ones to T. Higgins, sparking the comeback. Had an egregious interception, a very uncharacteristic interception that really kind of, there were a lot of elements. I mentioned the defensive struggles, but that interception, especially when you're not getting turnovers on the other side of the ball, that interception just was absolutely killer. You're marching down the field, you're in the red zone, and you just float one up, and you feel like even if you got a field goal there, that is a 10-point swing from either kicking a field goal to an eventual touchdown for the Ravens a few plays later after netting the interception, or maybe 14 points if you feel like the Bengals really were kind of getting into that rhythm, and they were at that point. Just a killer of a play. And kudos to the Ravens, because right after that interception, they went deep and they converted. A great catch by Zay Flowers, who looks like he's going to be a problem, by the way. Burrow sacked just once after being sacked twice last week. That is one of the differences we will talk about going forward. And 85.6 rating. You look here. Let's go down to the receiving yards here. Really nice dispersal for Lamar Jackson, hitting 7 different targets. Targeted Duvernay 3 times. Duvernay almost made a ridiculous touchdown catch, by the way. Nelson Aguilar leading the way after Odell Beckham Jr. yet again left the game with an injury. 5 catches, 63 yards, and the touchdown where he beat Awuzie out of the slot. Kind of did like a little post to the corner route there to win that one. Zay Flowers had the big 52-yarder I mentioned off of the turnover, 4 catches, 62 yards for him. Mark Andrews, a problem. This is one of the things that drove me bananas. When you saw this play, the 20-yard catch, that was late in the game on a 2nd and 23. That drives you nuts because you feel like, man, okay, now we're getting the momentum back in this game. We're making a comeback. We're doing all the right things. And we can get 20-yard catch across the middle where he's carrying guys on a 2nd and 23. Just mind-boggling. He didn't look totally 100% at Andrews, but he was playing tough. He had a tough touchdown catch where he kind of muscled his way in from a yard or two out. Did have a drop in the game, but man, he's a problem. He's a problem. Beckham Jr. in playing the Bengals, 3 catches, 29 yards. Bateman, 3 for 18. Higgins leading the way. And we can go back up here to the rushing too, but Higgins leading the way, receiving 8 for 89 with 2 touchdowns. Was really kind of using basketball moves, so to speak, to out muscle guys here. You see here, Tyler Boyd made some nice catches. Did have one. Thankfully, it didn't end up hurting them because Higgins got the touchdown a play or two later, but Boyd had one go right through his arms. It was a tougher catch, but man, in the corner of the end zone, kind of, as the announcer said, looked like he was kind of focusing on getting the feet down as opposed to, really tracking the ball, then working on the feet, getting down. Mixon helping out in the passing game, 4 for 36. Jamar Chase, just 5 catches for 31 yards on 8 targets. Irv Smith, rough game for him. Had what seemed to be it would have been a tough catch, but looked like he maybe would have had this great early catch in this game for probably 25, 30 yards, something to that effect. Didn't slide that last toe down and ended up resulting in a punt. And then, he had another short pass where it looked like maybe he broke out of a tackle, but it ended up being a tackle, if that makes sense. You felt like maybe he could have, or hopefully would have, stepped out of that and made a little bit of I don't want to say a better effort, but would have been able to convert a first down on a play like that. But Travion Williams, just 2 catches, 4 yards. And you go back up here, 1 carry, 2 yards for Chase Brown on his first NFL carry. Mixon, 13 for 59. He had 4.3 yards per carry last week and 4.5 yards per carry this week. And I understand the need when you are down at some point, when you are down, 13 to 10, and you feel like maybe you're starting to get a little bit of rhythm in the passing game, but Joe Mixon has been the most consistent offensive player for the Bengals this season so far through 2 games. He is running well. He is running hard. He is breaking first contact, and he is helping out as a receiver. He is the most consistent player the Bengals have had on offense so far this year. And then as you go down here, again, not huge blow up plays. Jadeveon Clowney really turned things on in the 4th quarter at the expense of Jonah Williams. 4 total tackles, did have a sack and 2 quarterback hits. A couple of those pressures were at the end of the game there. And Jonah Williams just struggled with him at the end of the game. Whereas the offensive line really played well for about 3.5 quarters in general, including Jonah Williams. It was really that last half of a quarter. Things fell apart. They fell apart for the offensive line and letting up hits and everything. This was also this is not an excuse for the loss, but there was some wildly inconsistent calls by the officials in this one, one of which was a fumble that was called back on a questionable hands to the face penalty by Zachary Carter. That was a big play, and that didn't end up going the Bengals' way. There was another one, I think, that led to potentially a field goal. I'll have to look back at the drive summary, and we will do that. But another one that was called on Cam Taylor-Britt when he is being thrown to the ground by Odell Beckham Jr. They called that, illegal contact on Cam Taylor-Britt, giving the Ravens a first down in the red zone area. So wildly inconsistent calls in this one by the officials. Dax Hill, a lot of good, some also 11 total tackles. He is playing everywhere. There were a lot of things where he was right in there making some nice plays. He was on the coverage for the Mark Andrews touchdown catch where Andrews just kind of muscled his way in on him. Hill was there on the coverage. He did have a pass defended. Nice play there. Logan Wilson, 10 tackles. He was very active. Pratt with 9. Nick Scott, tough game for him. Not so much because of poor play, but, he was in and out of the game, I think, twice. Cam Taylor-Britt, same deal. A little bit of a tough game from him. And, Hilton had a pass defended. Awuzie had a pass defended, but was on coverage for that Aguilar touchdown, which was a gut punch of a play. Akeem Davis-Gaither had a tackle for loss. He had a nice play there. But again, the defensive ends. Now, we kind of felt like, even though there were no sacks on Jackson there, we kind of felt like this was maybe not going to be a multi-sack game or something like that from the Bengals, a big output in that regard, because they're playing a little more contained, they're doing some spy stuff, and they want to stop the run. Well, they didn't. Lamar Jackson still had 12 carries for 54 yards and 4.5, including a couple at the end there that just, like I said, reminded me of shades of 2003, 2004, those where the defense wasn't quite as stout under Marvin Lewis, and they just, you're playing a Jerome Bettis, you're playing some of these guys where they just burned the clock, even though you came back, made a valiant effort, and just couldn't tackle, couldn't get guys down on the ground and get the ball back. 2 punts forced by Bengals. That's it. And that's, I kind of said that usually, and this is kind of still the case, they attempted 3 field goals. Usually it's not so much a touchdown fest, is a field goal fest for the Baltimore Ravens. They usually hover around that 18 to 20 point type of total. Still 3 field goal attempts, but 3 touchdowns as well. I mean, they got in the end zone, they scored points, and this game I don't feel was as close as the score would indicate. I mean, the Bengals, again, kudos to them for making a nice comeback, but I still think that there were some things here that didn't tell the whole tale. Here is the team stats, and this is going to kind of tell you what I mean by that. I will share this with you here again, courtesy of ESPN.com. We're going to run through some of these stats and everything for you here. Let me bring this up for you. Okay. And first downs, 26 to 19. So Bengals caught up in that regard. Passing first downs, Bengals actually had more. Look at the rushing first downs, 11 to 4. 11 to 4. First downs from penalties, 3 big ones for the Ravens and 2 for the Bengals. Look at the third down efficiency, 9 of 14, 10 of 15. So relatively close. Fourth down efficiency, the Bengals were 1 of 1 on fourth down. Total plays, disparity there, 70 for the Ravens, 57 for the Bengals. And here's the big disparity here. 415 total yards for the Baltimore Ravens, 282 for the Bengals. 9 total drives, as I mentioned, for the 9 total drives for the Ravens, 7 of which they had scoring opportunities. Can't really say the same because the Bengals had 3 punts themselves. So only 4, I think, scoring opportunities on 7 drives, if that, for the Bengals. Of course, they had the interception in the red zone there too. So that kills you there. Yards per play, 5.9, a whole more yard per play on average for the Baltimore Ravens than the Bengals. Not too much of a disparity with net passing, 237 to 216. Yards per pass, big disparity, over 2 full yards more per pass, 7.2 to 5.1. And then, of course, the big rushing disparity, 178 to 66. Penalties, 6 for 56 for the Ravens, 5 for 30. And the Ravens had the ball for just over 33 minutes. The Bengals just under 27. So there were some signs of not complete domination, but control, I would say, by the Baltimore Ravens in this one. I think control is a good word for that. Do we want to look at, we can kind of look at the drive summary quickly on stuff, because I think that tells a story as well. But yeah, you can see there was a lot of disparity early in this one, and just pretty ugly. Yeah, this is an interesting comment real quick by Honest Fan. Losing Pirine, Hurst, and both safeties was big. Who would have thought? Yeah. It's funny to me because I feel like Dax Hill has been making some plays. I feel like Nick Scott's been in there on some plays, but the impact plays, the wow plays, I mean, granted, Hill had the interception in week 1, but the impact plays, the wow plays, and lining guys up from the back end of the defense that Bell and Bates did so often when they were tandem back there. That's a big loss. That's a big loss. And then Hurst, I mean, numbers wise, it's not a huge loss out of the offense. It's more of the fact 2 weeks in, you're not getting any kind of similar production from Irv Smith that you got from Hurst, at least not consistently. We're going to look at another element here that I want to talk about in just a second when we compare the 0-2 starts from last year and this year. So interesting comment there though from Honest Fan. I like that. We'll see here, but let's go to. So we'll look at the drive summary. Let me pull that up for you folks as well. Again, courtesy of ESPN.com. Here you are. So you look at this: touchdown, punt, and then missed field goal. Bengals caught a break there. They could have been down in the hole 10-0 pretty early. Then you punt again, and then here's the issue, ladies and gents. And I'm not going at specific plays or play calls here. I'm just looking at this holistically here. Touchdown, the opening drive by the Baltimore Ravens was a thing of beauty, quite honestly. 13 plays, 75 yards, the half the quarter's gone. 7:48 taken off the clock. The Bengals get the ball and go 3 plays, 2 yards, and take up just under 2 minutes. So they put that defense right back on the field after a 13-play, almost 8-minute drive to start the game. Ravens go 7 plays. The punt was, I think, still put them in decent field position. Ravens go 7 plays. It was a long field goal, though. 50 plus. I want to say it was close to 55, if I'm not mistaken. I could probably, we can check that. But 7 plays, and then you go here, 59-yard field goal. Miss that. Bengals go right out on the field again. What do? 3 plays, 2 yards, just over 2 minutes this time, almost a lather, rinse, repeat to start the game. Thankfully, Charlie Jones gave the Bengals some real early life, exciting play, 81-yard punt touchdown return. You love that. But after they go 5, that's the other thing. Again, 3 plays, 13 plays. Bengals get the ball, 3 plays, 2 yards. Defense is back out on the field. 7 plays, they miss the field goal. Bengals get the ball, 3 plays, 2 yards. They put the defense right back out on the field. Defense gets a stop. They get the punt touchdown. They don't even get 3 plays this time. They get 1 play. They get 1 special teams play. And then they have to go right back out again. And oh, by the way, it's 10 plays for a field goal drive. So they were gassed. And you're talking about a team coming off of, playing a lot of snaps last week because of offensive efficiency and going and turning around on the field, having to go back out on the field quickly because of offensive inefficiency. So now the Bengals get the field goal before the half, and they're starting to get some momentum here. Then you feel like, okay, field goal, they go 12 plays, field goal, then they're moving the ball to start the second half, 8 plays, and then Joe Burrow throws that egregious interception, as I mentioned. Ravens promptly turn that into a 4-play touchdown drive. The Bengals do their own marching drive, 13 plays, 75 yards, make it a game at 20-17, promptly allow a 12-play touchdown drive, 75 yards, and that was kind of the keep away play. The Bengals then, after a 12-play drive, do their thing, 3 plays, 5 yards, back out on the field defense. So that, again, those are the ebbs and flows of the game, but you can kind of see when you are early in this game and Baltimore, great game plan coming out of the gate. Boom. Coming out of the gate. 8-minute drive. What did I say? 13, 14 plays. Touchdown. And then you promptly go 3 and out and put that defense back out on the field. And then they go and they're out on the field. They force a field goal that gets missed. And then you promptly go 3 and out, 2 yards, waste no time, put them back out on the field again. You're not doing your defense a service by doing that. So I say that to defend the defense a little bit because it was a bad day today by the defense. There's no doubt about it. They couldn't defend. They had no answers for a lot of the things that the Baltimore Ravens threw at them, whether it was Lamar Jackson throwing, Lamar Jackson running, the run game with Gus Edwards leading the way. They had answers for very little things that the Ravens were throwing at them. But the offense was not doing them favors early on, or even on occasion late in the game. These 3-play drives where, the defense, the defense let you down. They let up points. They let up a long drive, but you put them right back out there with a 3-play drive. That's just setting your team up to not be successful. It really is. So that is a little bit of the tail of the tape and some of the things that I noticed in the box score that I feel should be talked about with a lot of different things. So here we'll talk about the differences between the 0-2 start last year and this year in just a second. I just want to remind folks, if you are new here, if you want to check out our, any of our post-game shows, any of the shows that we do on the Orange and Black Insider, any of the shows that 3 and Out does, or other shows on the Cincy Jungle podcast network, Talking Football with Bengal Jim and Friends. He's always got some cool guests on there. 3 and Out with Jason and Kevin. Like I said, John Sheeran and myself doing the Orange and Black Insider. And, of course, the coach, Matt Minnick, breaking things down on Coach Speak and Chalk Talk. You can get that on your favorite audio streamer, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, all of the major ones. We are there. Or if you like the video side of things, you can go right down here. There's a little show icon. Click that to subscribe. Click the bell to be notified when we go live, when new content is available. And, of course, give a thumbs up, a like to our videos on YouTube, as well as on the Cincy Jungle Facebook page, where you're joining about 85,000 strong on the Cincy Jungle page, where all the podcast videos, articles, everything is posted there on the Facebook page that you can go check out. So go check that out if you would, and subscribe where and how you like. Appreciate all the support. We've got a lot of live viewers from a lot of different platforms right now, and a lot of pissed off people, quite honestly. So, and I don't blame you. I think we're all in the same boat. Okay. So, as I mentioned, there are some major differences in the 0-2 starts, and you can, you can look at, you can take away some positives, you can take away a lot of negatives from, oh, this is different, this is better. I know a lot of the optimists out there are saying they can right the Bengals can right the ship, and they did it last year, they can do it again. And for me, I kind of feel like I had the Bengals still being in that 12-13 win range overall this year, and 3 of those losses I had, if you have 4 or 5 losses, 3 of them I had within this division. So while it's not a great way to start your season, it is a terrible way to start your season. Not only 0-2 overall, but 0-2 in the division. And that is a difference, by the way. Let's talk about one difference. Last year was 1 divisional game. This year it's 2. So you are in an early hole overall and in the division. That's big. That's big. And we have yet to see what's going to happen Monday night with the Steelers and the Browns. I mean, do you want, I don't know who you want in that one. I guess you would like the Steelers to kind of even things out now that Baltimore's 2-0. I don't know. So the optimist right now is saying, okay, well, 0-2, number one, they came back from it last year and they made the AFC Championship game. Valid. I think this team has it in it. I think the locker room culture is there. I think I think the talent on the roster will get them there. I get it. Yeah, I'm with you. But then you look at it, and then there's the whole Burrow calf mystery, the severity of the injury. We're hearing and seeing some different things now show up on our Twitter timeline about, hey guys, this isn't good. And some other folks that I know and trust, that a lot of people know and trust, are saying this. They're hearing some things that might be an IR short-term type of thing, might be a rest a week or two, might just be play through it and grit through the pain and try and, grind out what you can. You look at last year, and Burrow struggled. Now, Burrow last year, in the first 2 games, in that 0-2 start, 3 touchdown passes and 5 total turnovers. All 5 came in that Steelers game. 4 interceptions and a lost fumble. He had 2 fumbles total in that game. So 5 total turnovers against 3 touchdown passes. This year, he's not turning the ball over. He turned it over once, and it was a bad one today. He has 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. But last year, he had 537 passing yards, and this year he's under 300. There's some big, so some good. You're not turning the ball over. Some bad. You're not throwing the ball well. You're not getting points, right? Last year, the points, they scored 20 and 17. They scored 37 total points. And right now they're at 27 total points. I'm sorry. They scored 27 total points last year. And then this year, 27 as well, right? 24 and then 3 in the opener. 27 and 27, 37 and 27 rather. So you're a little far off on that. I mean, again, you're talking about the loss against the Steelers last year was kind of a fluky thing because of Clark Harris, but you played like crap with all those turnovers last year. They're not turning the ball over this year. They're just not moving the ball. They're not throwing the ball with any efficiency, really. And that lingered for about 6 quarters so far this year. Now it got better later in the game this week. Sacks. Burrow has been sacked 3 times in 2 games this year, 13 times last year. So the sacks have decreased exponentially, which is good news. But you're not doing anything with the time. You're not doing anything with the time that was given. There was time early in this game, and it was check down, it was swing pass. And yes, I know a lot of people are saying, I didn't take him to task, but I took kind of the offensive brain trust. There's some criticism there because we do a winners and losers post. Again, I always say this. I do not like to use the moniker losers in a title, but that is a weekly article that is featured on SB Nation. I love SB Nation. I love what they do, but and I love working for them, but I don't like using the title losers. I don't like doing that. Regardless, I put the offensive brain trust on criticism a little bit because there's just a lack of creativity. They were not, making adjustments last week. They did make some adjustments, it appeared this week. And yes, I know that the swing passes are not necessarily a Zach Taylor design. It is a Joe Burrow decision based on the coverage that is out there. I get it. But the bottom line is you're not getting yards. And these swing passes are going for like 1 yard, 2 yards when you do that. Better than a sack, I guess. But Burrow's getting the ball out quicker. That's the other thing that happened as an adjustment from last year and this year at the 0-2 start. The bottom line is, and I guess you're looking at it and you're saying, well, I mean, you had almost, Steelers were a very competitive team last year. Dallas made the playoffs last year, and those are the 2 teams you lost to. You lost to a backup quarterback in Cooper Rush. You lost to who became a backup quarterback with Pittsburgh there. So that was a little bit staggering to start the year. But these slow starts to games, these slow starts to seasons, those are the similarities that are really staggering. I want to share this tweet as well. And this is something where I think is a similarity. I mean, we're calling this a little bit of similarities here. This is we're calling this differences here. This is a similarity in a way here. And I'll explain what I mean by this. Jordan Schultz at Schultz_report on Twitter is a guy who breaks a lot of news in the NFL. He breaks a lot of things down, a well-respected. I was sent this tweet to our podcast account as a direct message, as a nice alert. And I thought this was really cool here, at least from an analysis standpoint. The Bengals didn't run a single play under center today. I understand Joe Burrow wanting to have distance between the Ravens D-line, but I thought Joe Mixon ran the ball very hard and very well. I'd like to see some power and 12 personnel moving forward for Cincinnati. I think it'll help both Burrow and the running game. Fair enough. And that's good. Now, if you remember, this is the difference from last year. The Bengals last year were running plays under center frequently at the beginning of the year, and they were forced to move to shotgun, quick passing, not do the bombs away stuff as much. And that's what got them to be successful, doing a lot of RPO stuff, doing a lot of shotgun runs, delays, and then, kind of more quick hit timing type of stuff. Now they're doing it again, and it seems as if defenses are now catching back on to what they adjusted to last year. And so now, as a similarity to the 0-2 start last year, the Bengals may need to be forced to reinvent what they do on offense yet again. And that'll be on Brian Callahan. That'll be on Zach Taylor. That'll be on Joe Burrow. A guy I really like, Andrew Russell, who does some stuff with Pro Football Focus, a great Bengals Twitter follow and friend of the show here. He responded to this with an interesting situation saying, the Bengals don't go with these power and 12 personnel because of the lack of investments in the tight end position. Good call. The Bengals just had not valued that position. And now maybe with the, with this potential reinvention, they may need to work in other tight ends. They may need to do maybe some more tackle eligible type of stuff. Or if it is a tight end problem, they could call up Zach Gentry, who was added to their practice squad from the Steelers after they let him go at final cuts. And Zach Gentry is known as an able blocker. So maybe he is an answer here as a potential remedy to that problem. If you are believing what a smart guy like Andrew Russell says and what Jordan Schultz says here, those are situations that I think you need to look at, because what you got going, it worked for about a total of a quarter and a half of 8 quarters so far this year, but it ain't working right now. And what is working? Those Joe Mixon runs, for the most part, those are working. And now you've got concerns with Joe Burrow's health, and we're hearing, he was kind of limping off the field after that T. Higgins pass in the post-game press conference. He was talking about how he, quote, tweaked it. And then we're hearing some stuff now. I don't want people to, jump off the end of the pier here, but we're hearing some things where this might be a missed time type of situation. I don't know. And that's concerning for the Bengals going forward here. They need to treat this well. They need to treat it correctly. I don't know if more rest is needed. I don't know if, it's just going to kind of start going away on its own. I mean, obviously, as he uses it and as he gets hit more and more, as he plants more and more, you're seeing discomfort. Yeah, Matty G here. This is a great call. Yeah, the tight. I was talking about this with, a guy I was watching with today. The tight end class was so deep this year. We should have picked one of them up in the draft. Yeah, I mean, they liked Dalton Kincaid. They liked Sam Laporta. It didn't fall where they picked. And so, as they went on, they just didn't see the value and went elsewhere. But again, I think, potentially, and I see this too. Thank you as well, Seagriff 142. Echoing what I said about Gentry, but also Tanner Hudson, another guy who could be a weapon in the passing game. I like the potential of Irv Smith, but it's not materializing through 2 games so far this year. And of course, Sample had a catch today, but I mean, it went for minimal yardage, and I think we know that. But look, concern, yes. Jump off a bridge, season over, no. Now they have tougher game. This Rams game initially looked like a walk in the park because a lot of people felt like, man, this team's rebuilding. The Rams are looking scrappy. And there's a receiver that I watched today before I took the air, Puka Nacua, who is doing work for the Rams, has the most receptions through 2 pro games of anyone ever. And I don't know what he ended up with, but he was in the 20s for 2 games to start this season. I think when I stopped watching, he was at 21, 22, something like that, and another 100-yard game. So he is going to be a problem this week, and the Rams are playing hard despite it starting the season as a rebuilding year. That's going to be a tougher game than expected next week, but that has to be the bounce back game. You've got the Ring of Honor, you've got all kinds of different elements, and that stadium should be loud. I saw, unfortunately, this Ravens game or the Rams game or one of the games in Cincinnati I was going to try and go to, but I heard or I saw on Twitter from Bengals captain that this stadium today was not very loud. I'm sure that's going to change for the Monday night game, but that has to, and granted, what stinks about that is it's not a conference game, it's an interconference game, but you got to get on the winning track. You got to start feeling better about things. You can't go 0-3 to start this year, and you got to start stringing some wins along here. And someone had mentioned I don't see a big streak like last year, maybe, but even if again towards the middle of the year you're 500, maybe a game or two over, and then you kind of start stringing some wins along, you got to get to double-digit wins, and then some to get a nice playoff positioning here. But it's all about doing some different things on offense, making sure you still can get the ball in big ways to Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Don't shy away from using the run, particularly with Burrow's injury and the effectiveness that Mixon is showing this year. He hasn't had a gigantic statistical game, but each game he's making some nice runs. He's making some nice runs. You lean on that a little bit and use the disguise that is RPO runs at times to really get some chunk yardage on the ground and save wear and tear on Burrow as he keeps trying to come back from that calf injury. Thank you, Will. See that. Puka Nacua has 25 catches. Yeah, when I stopped watching him, I think he was at 22 for 166 yards on 35 targets through 2 games. Thank you, Will. Appreciate that. I did see, I think it was Will also, but some others have asked me, what do I think about, because I see here from RM, what do I think about the punter and all of that? He's a rookie. I think there are some punts that have some nice hang time. There was one he hit in particular today. I think it was in the middle of the game where I said, wow, that one hung up there for a long time. The big boots and the big yardage is not really Brad Robbins' game. His game is accuracy and hang time. Unfortunately, the former hasn't really come to fruition as much as you would like. The hang time has been there on occasion. I think he'll get it together. It's a worry. It's an issue, particularly when, you were playing field position battle in that first game, and then you have a close loss here. It's a concern, but it's not the biggest concern for me right now. It's Burrow's injury. It's the ineffectiveness of the passing game. It's the defense. What is the defense doing? I gave them credit last week for what they did against the Browns offense, and I still stand by that in many ways. 3 sacks on Deshaun Watson, less than 150 passing yards allowed, 2 turnovers forced. I mean, that should be enough to put you in position to win, particularly when you're on the road and you are +2 in the turnover margin. That should be enough. But as they were out there after short drive after short drive after short drive put forth by the offense, and out there inevitably Nick Chubb got his 100-yard day. That was bound to happen. Going back to an area of concern or differences between the 0-2 start. Granted, today was a 3-point loss. Could have been worse. But losing by 3 touchdowns to open the season, you have lost your point differential is -24 this season, and it was -6 last year. They lost both games by 3 points, and both either in overtime or the last second on field goals. Not the case this week. You can kind of say that a little bit this week, but it was more of a clock draining thing from Lamar Jackson and company that did it. And not, the need for them to go down and score the points to win. It was more just drain the clock and move on. They did that, but Bengals lose 27-24. They fall to 0-2 overall. They fall to 0-2 in the AFC North, and there are a lot of questions about this team. There are a lot of concern. I got to tell you, I will say this. I thought what the Bengals did last year, coming back and rattling off, 10 wins at the end of the year to make it all the way to the AFC Championship game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, including the postseason. Yep. 10 wins to get to the AFC Championship game, including regular season, postseason. I thought that was pretty miraculous in itself to do that. And I mean, you don't see that very often, particularly when you're talking about a road playoff win as well. So that was miraculous. I will say this: if the Bengals were to do something similar, not necessarily winning that many in a row, but to turn, to what they did last year, to turn that 0-2 start around, recreate themselves on offense and make that happen and go that far. If they were to do something similar this year with the Burrow injury, with the offensive issues, the slow start, the 0-2 divisional hole, they were to do that, that would be more impressive to me, especially in going on a deep playoff run. That would be more impressive to me than what they did last year. And last year was incredibly impressive. Big if. They've got a lot to do. I know a lot of people, I know they have it in them because we've seen it, but it is hard to rely on runs like that to be able to go far into the postseason. Very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. But if they can do it, they got to start getting things together and piling up wins. That's the bottom line. And I think if you're looking at some of the silver linings, there has been some wild inconsistencies from some of the better playoff teams of last year. Kansas City's 1-1, and they struggled with Jacksonville. Jacksonville's 1-1, who lost to Kansas City today. I think that was in Jacksonville, if I'm not mistaken. Chargers are 0-2. Bengals are 0-2. So the Bengals aren't alone in a inconsistent or bad start when it comes to playoff teams from last year. I don't know if that makes you feel better or not, but I think they have it in them for a run. I don't know if they will do it, but they have the character, the brains, the abilities. They have all of that in spades to make it happen. Just a matter of having them do it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, whether it was live or after the fact. I appreciate you tuning in, checking out all the stats, talking through all the different things with the Bengals loss 27-24 to the Baltimore Ravens. Again, they got some work to do. They got some work to do, and it starts for this Monday night game against the Rams. That'll be a tough test. But regardless, the Bengals are 0-2 in the division, and that's the story right now. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in live or after the fact. Appreciate you leaving some comments, leaving reviews, checking things out. I appreciate it. We've got all kinds of different videos you can check out on our YouTube channel, all kinds of different episodes on the audio side. Please leave us a review. Check us out, and I appreciate it. Hopefully better days to come for the Cincinnati Bengals. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.